Everyone, so today's video is going to be on beginner's eyeshadow. We have already done beginner's foundation and beginner's brows. If you have not already seen it, I will go ahead and link it down below. It is very informative, which is really nice because it kind of goes over all of the basics and how to, go ahead and get your makeup on point. So I'll go ahead and link those two down below for you if you have not already seen them, but we are going to be doing beginner's eyeshadow today. We're going to be going over brushes that are necessary, things that you should have in your collection, and we're not reinventing the wheel, obviously, with eyeshadow makeup today, but we're going to be doing a very basic beginner's look. I hope this is helpful for you guys, and if you want to see how to do some beginner eyeshadow, just keep on watching. To start off, what I'd like to do is just talk about some brushes and eye primers, because I think both of those are very important when you are doing your eyeshadow. Having the correct brush, having the right primer makes all the difference in the world. You can have the most expensive eyeshadow in the world and at your fingertips, and it won't look right if you don't have the right tools or the right foundation to make it look as good as it can. So let's go ahead and start with primers, and then we'll move on to brushes. So there are so many different kinds of eyeshadow primers out there. There's Lorac, there is Urban Decay, they have ones from e.l.f. I mean, it really is all about personal preference. I usually would go for drugstore if you are just starting off and are playing with makeup just to kind of get your feet wet. I also opt for concealer, so it really just depends on your personal preference. I'm going to be using concealer today and then setting it with a little bit of a powder. Eyeshadow primers, you can do the same thing. I use a translucent powder on my eyes, as we have already done the foundation and the brows, but a little bit of concealer goes a long way, so I just like to do this. You can do it with a brush, you can do it with your fingertips. I usually use a brush just to make it a little easier on myself, but there are all sorts of different kinds of primers out there. It's really dealer's choice. Brushes that you will be needing today and things that you should have in your collection are really on what you feel most comfortable using. For me, I'm only going to be using 3 different brushes, and I will use 3 different shadows so that I can show you, the basics, and want to do it as simple and neat as possible. So the first brush that I would say that needs to be in your beginner's collection, a brush that looks kind of like one of these. This is a Wet n Wild brush, and this is a Sigma brush. They look almost identical. They both have the same tapered, rounded top, and this is actually called a tapered blending brush. Wet n Wild doesn't have any descriptions on theirs, but they look almost identical. These are also called ponytail brushes because they are so round and dense. It just depends on what you have in your collection, but we will definitely be using one of these today. Also in your collection, this brush is a little bit more flat. It is a blending brush. This one is actually from Morphe. This is an M433 brush. And what it does is really blend out any harsh lines in the crease. And this is something that I use every single day when I am doing my makeup because it is so nice to be able to get really deep into that crease without blending out all of the darker colors and getting it everywhere. And the last brush we'll be needing today is a flat eye shading brush. This is the E55 from Sigma, and it looks like this. It is a flat brush that has a rounded top. It's very nice. They've got the C brush. I believe it's called the C brush from e.l.f. It's exactly the same thing. This one is just a little bit smaller, and you can just pack on that color on the lid. So something like this is really important to have in your collection. On to eyeshadows, what I would suggest is getting 3 different eyeshadows, either in a palette or individuals. It doesn't matter, whatever you have. And what I would suggest is doing 2 matte shades and 1 shimmer shade, just so that you have a little bit of sparkle. Or you can do all matte. That is all your personal preference. But what I would suggest is going for a shadow for the crease or transition color that is going to be your skin tone, but 2 or 3 shades darker. So what I have here is Creme Brulee from Makeup Geek. It looks like this. And it is a couple shades darker than my natural skin tone. This is going to be my transition shade, and this is what I'm going to be putting in my crease. So I went ahead and put some primer on my eyes. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom you in so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so first we're going to be taking this color, the Creme Brulee, and I'm going to be taking this on the blending or the tapered blending brush from Sigma, and that looks like this round ponytail brush that I showed you earlier. I'm going to go ahead and do very small amounts right here, and it kind of looks like that. You can see it's very small. I'm not going to be packing this on to begin with. I want to build it up. So a little goes a long way, and you can always add more. You can't take away. So we always want to do just a little bit and then move forward. So what I'm going to do is actually focus this more on the outer corner, because you want to concentrate most of the color on the outer edge. By doing this, you're going to be blending out a little bit into the actual like inner crease, but you're not going to be putting most of the product right in the middle or the center of your eye. You definitely want to start on the outer part. So what I'm going to be doing is just doing circular motions and just putting just a little bit on the outside, as you can see here. And then when I don't have a whole lot of product left on the brush, I'm going to be moving this into the inner crease. Slowly and in windshield wiper motions. It makes such a difference when you do windshield wiper motions and you're not just going in and blending out. Once you've been doing it for a while and you feel more comfortable, then go ahead and you can just pack this in and not be, you know, as careful. But for me, and doing this as a beginner, we really want to just focus a lot of that color on the outer corner. So as you can see, I'm building up the color just a little bit, and I'm just bringing that in slowly in windshield wiper motions. So now that we've got a little bit more color here as well as the outer corner here, what I'm going to do is just do some small circular motions on the inner corner of my eye with no additional product on my brush. What this is going to do is just blend out this whole area, and the whole nice socket area is going to have that beautiful creme brulee color. And you can see now that it's nice and blended compared to the eye that doesn't have anything on it. It's got a little bit of color, it's a little bit more defined, and it looks much nicer now that we've got just a little bit more of that concentrated color on the outside, because you can always build that up later. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just go in just a little bit more, because I want just a little bit more pigment on this side, and just add a little bit more of that creme brulee right in that socket area. And as you can see, I'm holding the brush at a downward angle so that I can get a lot of that color through the socket. When we are doing a dark color, you want to hold the brush more on an angle going down on your eye so that it holds it all in the socket area and you're not getting it up towards the brow. Now that I have that nicely packed into this socket area, I'm going to go ahead and move in with a more densely tight packed brush, and that is the Morphe M33 brush. It looks like that is more flat compared to what we just used, the Sigma tapered brush. As you can tell, they look very different. This one is definitely more tightly packed, and it can get into that socket area. What I'm going to do is go ahead and dab into the creme brulee again, just to build up that color. And as you can see, it's not a whole lot that I'm putting on the brush, but what I'm doing is doing this at a downward motion to really get it nice and concise in the socket area. See, now it's a little bit more defined with the color, and it's not all over the lid as well as the brow area. We didn't get it all over the place. We've got it nice and tidy right in the socket. If there are any harsh lines that you see, what I would suggest is going back in with the tapered blending brush and just doing a light, not with any additional product, just going in and lightly going in just to blend out any harsh lines that you might see. And there we go. Now that your crease color is done, we can go ahead and move on to underneath the brow color. You can do this with a shimmer shade, you can do this with a matte shade. I tend to do this with a little bit of a matte shade at first. If I feel like I need a little bit of shimmer, then I'll just place it right underneath the arch of the brow. But for this particular tutorial, being as it is beginner, I'm going to go in with a flat matte shade. You can do this with a cream color, you can do this with a white color. What I like to do is go ahead and go in with my flat shading brush, the E55 from Sigma. It looks like this. and a cream color. This is a cream color. It doesn't have a name. I probably have acquired it over the years and I don't know what the name of it is, but it is a nice cream color, very matte, has no shimmer to it, and it is quite white. So what I do is just take a little bit on my brush, as you can see, kind of tap off any excess so that you don't have it all over the lid or into the crease and undoing what you just did. And what I'm doing is just slightly placing that right underneath the brow bone, just to give myself a little bit more lightness. And just slowly packing that on. If you do have a little bit of a line, again, you can go in with no additional product on your blender brush because this brush is so multi-purpose, and just go in and blend out any harsh lines. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is take my flat shader brush that I just used underneath the brow and kind of clean it off just a little bit, just to make sure I don't have any additional product on there. I'm going to go in with my final and third color, and I'm going to go ahead and pat that on to and pack that onto my eye. Today I'm going to be using a shimmer shade. It does not have a name. I have acquired quite a few shadows that don't have names, so I'm sorry about that. But I'm going to be using my flat shader brush that looks like this, and it is a E55 from Sigma. Once again, I'm going to be packing on just a little bit onto the brush, and I'm not going to be bringing this into the crease or up to the brow. I'm only going to be this on the eyelid, and then I'm going to go in and blend, and I will show you all of these steps all together. So what I'm going to be doing is just lightly packing this onto the lid. I don't want to take it too high. I'm trying to keep this as low as possible. By doing this, I'm kind of taking it at a certain angle, which is about a 45-degree angle away from the face, and just packing that on the lid. What I'm doing is also taking windshield wiper motions just to carve out that crease so that I don't take it too high, and just packing that back on. Just like that. Now I do have harsh lines going all the way through, as you can see. I'm taking my tapered brush here. It's in the crease because it's going to be a lot easier to blend out those harsh lines. And I'm just going to go in and lightly blend that out. And now you can see that all the shadows are blending nicely into each other without any harsh lines. I do want to add just a little bit more color onto the lid because when you do blend, you tend to lose some of the pigment. So I want to make sure that the eyeshadow has enough pigment on the lid so that you can see it. And again, all I'm doing is just patting it on and packing that color on. Another way to do this is using Fix Plus with a little bit of the shadow on your brush. And you can go ahead and get a little bit more pigment that way. And again, I'm just going to go in with that tapered brush with no additional product and blend that out. Want to make sure there's no lines and everybody is nice and blended. What you can do is go ahead and add liner in the waterline on top if you want to, underneath. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do. What I'm going to do today, just so it makes it nice and easy, is I'm going to take the Morphe brush that looks like this, and I'm going to be putting a little bit of that creme brulee color, the transition color we started with, just underneath the eye, just to give it a little bit more color. I'm going to take a little bit of creme brulee on this brush here and just tap that off. And all I'm going to do is just run this underneath my waterline. And this just frames the eye. I'm going to go ahead and add some mascara. What I like to do is use my eyelash curler first. I do this because I feel like it gets my eyelashes more curled. Some people just like to hold it there, but that's not what I do. I like to go ahead and just pulsate. I feel like you get a better result. And then I'll put on some mascara. See, I'm just slightly pulsating. What I'm using today is going to be the Telescopic Shocking Extensions Mascara from L'Oreal. It looks like this. I like the brush on this one, so that's why I'm using this today. The brush is really easy to use. It's very thin, and you can get into the inner and outer corners so that it makes it more full and voluminous on your eyelashes. And that's a completed look, guys. I hope that this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to watch the contouring video, if it's up already, I will go ahead and link that down below. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks. Bye.